He is Harb. He is Day Day. He is Big Montana. We've got a full crew this week on the Section YY8 podcast here in the virtual studios presented by Appliance Repair Service Incorporated, who graciously gave us these koozies. If you don't have one, hit us up. But Harb, we had a couple little events this weekend that happened with Tennessee Athletics, didn't we?
Yeah, pretty laid back week. Not a whole lot to talk about, but I'm sure we'll cover a little bit of it.
Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball, haters and losers. Let's get right into it. So a huge weekend for Tennessee athletics, football, basketball. I think volleyball played, Harbin. Did you watch the volleyball game today?
I just missed it.
They're good. You need to check them out. And they're easy to look at.
That may be true. I'll take your
word. Well, Harbin, Day Day, and Big Montana are here with us this week. And I just wanted to start with a question for every one of y'all. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
I can only imagine.
I know I can't imagine being a fan of the Kentucky Wildcats. What a joke they are. They came in to last night and yesterday all pumped up once again. What? Thinking they were going to beat the Vols. What? And they fell short once again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a broken record at this point with those guys up north. I sat on my back porch last night till probably 1:30 listening to Kentucky sports radio. It was amazing radio to listen to. At one point, they stopped talking about Tennessee finally, and they started talking about Mark Stoops and how he can't beat good teams and why is he getting paid so much and on. I mean, it was just on and on all night. I mean, I don't know how late those guys ended up going on the air, but it was incredible. But that was a huge win for the Vols last night. They're 6-2. Still got a 10-win season on the table if they can find a way to win out. So how are we feeling after the game last night? I'll start with Day Day. You've not been on here in a few weeks. We'll start with you and Big Montana.
Sounds
how are
good.
we feeling?
I mean, they did what they always do. They toyed around with their food, and then finally finished it in a very unique fashion this time. I mean, I loved how it ended. It's like they want to fake all this stuff to slow us down, and then they couldn't get out of fake out mode, and it screwed them in the end. It was hilarious. Great way to end the game, in my opinion, because then they started chirping, trying to get us to get a penalty, but it was game over, and they couldn't do a thing about it, and Stoops knew it, so it was hilarious. Overall, I mean, play was fine. I don't want to say we changed up our defense. We definitely weren't getting the pressure, some holding here and there, but at the same time, you still got to create pressure somewhere. I didn't see as many safety blitz, what they had to do last year when they couldn't get pressure with just the front four. I think they were okay with letting Leary throw it. And they were like, you're going to get here to here. Can you finish?
They must have been because they let him sit back there and throw it.
Yeah, they couldn't finish enough plays to get more points than us. So I think they were okay with that. Now, I could be totally wrong, and we're back to last year's pass defense, but it looked like they had one goal, and that was to shut the run game down, and they did.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Kentucky only had 85 yards on the ground last night, and Ray Davis, 16 carries for 44 yards. He's their best player on offense, I think.
Oh, definitely.
And Tennessee held him. I mean, it says here a long of 8, and I think that was in the first half there toward the end around the goal line. So,
yeah, and I mean, that one was a clear hold that he got the touchdown run on.
Yeah. That's something else we'll talk about here in a minute, the penalties or lack thereof on our opponents, but we'll get to that. That's unbelievable to me in itself. Big Montana, what'd you think? You were pretty outspoken earlier in the day in our text group about Joe Montana. Shit.
Definitely not Joe Montana.
He definitely ain't Joe Montana.
Definitely
Joe
ain't
Montana.
He did look like Joe Montana there for a little bit last night. Joe
He had
Milton,
some
I'm
throws.
sorry.
I feel the same way Davey did. I think that the defensive plan was to stop the run. They made Leary look like a Heisman candidate because of the scheme they were in. I thought he played good last night. It's just our coverage. I mean, I wish we got more pressure on him. I do feel like Kentucky's O-line was pretty decent. And I noticed about 6 or 7 holds that were just blatant that weren't called. Don't know what that's about. But we did enough to win. I think Kentucky's a good football team, and they're 5-2. Their losses are to Georgia and us, and who else?
Missouri.
Yeah. I think Missouri's a good football team, and obviously Georgia is too. I think Kentucky's just a decent middle of the pack SEC football team. And we did enough to win. It's just the frustration of having to settle for field goals and just getting in the red zone and not being able to get 6 is really frustrating. Really frustrating against Alabama, but it was luckily we did enough to beat Kentucky last night. Thought the last drive we had to seal it was very important because you just don't know. Give them 45 seconds to get down the field and score. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. But Joe Milton picking up that first down and staying in bounds was probably the play of the night. In my eyes, that wasn't. That was
a high IQ play for him.
High IQ play. I'm not joking. Like he's a guy that don't reach the ball out for a first down and stuff, and like he's made some questionable things, and it literally shocked me that he had that much whereabout to get down in bounds. But yeah, I think that was the biggest play of the night that didn't occur from a young man named Sampson. But thank God for him. What a juggernaut he was last night.
Yeah,
Rat did too. Rat was running like crazy.
Yeah,
he was awesome. He was awesome, especially on those last 2 drives. And I think, did I read that Jabari Small was banged up and that was why he wasn't in there in the second half or something? Or did I?
No, Rat was banged up.
Oh, Wright was banged up. Okay. But yeah, Sampson was awesome. Running the football, catching the ball out of the backfield. That's what we've been talking about. Brett said it a couple times last week and the week before. Like, get this guy the football. I'm gonna go over to Harbin. I was with Harbin last night. What's your thoughts on the game, Harbin?
Did what we needed to do. There's a lot of people that had the idea that we potentially needed to scrap the season. It's just kind of shocking because I consider a lot of people that I consider intelligent really didn't think we was going to win this Saturday, and that's pretty disappointing coming out of some of them. But the biggest thing is my boy. Shut everybody up. I mean, you go 18 for 21 on the road. You can shake your head all you want, Big Montana. That's fine. And we can go for 3 hours if you want to. Well, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
What?
So first of all, I never said that we should scratch the season. I honestly think that you or Nathan or me or Davey could go play quarterback right now and have the same record that UT has.
I am not putting myself in the SEC.
I said this to Harbin last night because I think we
are.
said that, and I looked at Harbin and I said, dude, I'd probably shit myself if I walked out on the field with the SEC defense in front
I'd be
of
the
me.
Oklahoma State guy.
What I don't understand, and this is where my head is, and thank you for calling me intelligent, Harbin. I do appreciate it. But I honestly don't think the talent level between Joe Milton and Nico right now is that much different. Do I think Nico's going to come in here? If he started last night, would he had the game that Milton had? Probably not. But I want to get this guy some snaps in meaningful SEC games to get him some confidence built up for when we do go, when Florida comes in here to town next year, that he's ready. And there's nothing. I think we win 2 more games, and we'll be 8-4 at the worst. Could possibly beat Missouri. Boys, I don't think we're beating Georgia. I'm sorry.
No way.
But I don't think there's that much difference in the long run of a 8-4 season or a 7-5 season versus 9-3. And that's just where my head is, because I want to get this guy some snaps and get him comfortable playing SEC football. Because Joe wasn't good enough in the Austin Peay game to get him any snaps. Hope to God he can play some in the UConn game. But I just don't think there's, if we're not going to play for SEC championship, and we still can. I understand that. We still can. But it's very unlikely. So why not get this guy some meaningful snaps and get him prepared? I mean, he's been on campus since December of last year?
Mm-hmm. It's because the O-line is so bad.
And if he sucks, you go find somebody else. So we're not having the same conversation next year.
It is just so funny how spoiled some of us have gotten, because 3 years ago, we would be ripping somebody's arm off to go 9-3.
And I understand that.
And now we're saying that if we go 9-3, we just need to start the freshmen and get ready for next year. That shows how much this program has progressed.
But what do we owe Joe Milton to keep starting him? I mean, he's not going to get drafted. I mean, there's really nothing to gain from it. Outback Bowl versus Music City Bowl.
There's a big difference in those 2 bowl games.
If you're not playing in the playoff or a New Year's Six.
But I knew you were going to say that, because that's a mentality, not just here, but nationwide. We talked about it last week with Caleb Williams and USC. There's talk, and I don't think it's coming from his camp, but there's talk that he should sit out because the Heisman's not on the table probably for him. The national championship is not on the table for him. So what's he have to play for? But
it's business.
I don't know, guys. We've gotten in. It's so backwards thinking to me to sit out.
College football's ruined now, boys. The NIL and it's business. Whenever you let coaches leave and let players leave after a year and you're paying them, it's bastardized the whole thing. So everybody's looking out for themselves. The days of playing for pageantry and honor and playing for your team, I think those days are over with. And I think it's everywhere.
I just think it's a loser's mentality to not put out your best players that give you the best chance to win football games in the moment.
I agree 100%. 100%.
So you want us to act like losers? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think you ought to put your best players on the field. I don't think Joe Milton is better than Nico.
You think Nico is better right now than Joe Milton?
I think we have a better chance of scoring more points with Josh Heupel's offense running his scheme than we ever could with Joe Milton. I think our offense this year is so just watered down because he can't run it.
Do you think you know more about this team than Josh Heupel does?
No, I don't. But this is also the guy that started Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker 2 years ago.
Yeah. And Joe Milton put down his leg, and then you put in Hendon Hooker, and he played so well that you couldn't even think about going back.
I don't even think this is the misconception. Hooker did not play so well. He struggled in that Pitt game. You got to remember, he had the INT that sealed it basically for them. Mm-hmm. He wasn't just roses. He got to go over to Missouri, bad Missouri defense, and hand the ball off a bunch of times, and we ran all over them. He hit a couple throws. But, I mean, that's the same thing Milton's doing right now is he's got good running backs, and he's just giving it to them, and that's what's keeping that confidence up when it does go down. Now, Hooker then took off, and I'm he is definitely better than Milton. But to start, no, I don't think that you had this big gap between those two. So that's why I think Milton had the job. He had the arm that Hooker probably didn't display in practice. And I mean, we've seen his arm; it's insane. But can he hit when it counts? That's where it's kind of iffy with Milton.
So my thing is this: we were all talking last year in the Orange Bowl, and I think everybody said something about Milton not being our guy. We beat Clemson. Okay. Since then, we've beat Virginia. We beat Austin Peay. We beat University of Texas San Antonio Christian, TCU State, whatever the hell it was. We lost to Florida. We lost to Alabama. We beat Kentucky. Who else did we beat in between?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, which you cannot even remotely tell me that he was good in that game.
Nobody. I don't think
he was bad. He was bad.
It was an absolute cluster of a game.
So I'm a
both sides.
What have you done for me lately kind of guy. And listen, he did play good last night. I would be the first one to tell you, but he had one touchdown. So I don't give a shit about your completions on 10-yard passes, 6-yard passes. That's great, but he should have had 4 or 5 touchdown passes last night. Squirrel White's open every play, but he just can't see the field. And he questions himself, and he double pumps, and he don't throw it quick enough, and he throws it too late.
Agreed. He's not confident in his ability.
So
I 100% agree there.
I'm just over the experiment. Do I hope Tennessee wins every football game the rest of the year? Yes. Do I hope we go back to the Orange Bowl? Yes. But I just think we're kind of blowing opportunity because I think we get the same results by playing a true freshman.
Well, the last time we threw a true freshman in the fire, how'd that turn out?
I don't care. I mean, we're paying this guy.
Don't care.
We're paying this guy $8 million. This guy was recruited over a guy with the last name Manning.
Yeah, and if he should be playing right now, he would be. That's the end of the discussion, in my opinion.
I don't think that's true.
I just don't think November again in the SEC is a good time to be putting somebody in that's a true freshman that's never played at this level. All we've said, all he's seen is play high school football.
I agree.
And he may be good. I don't know.
I honestly agree. I think
his arm is.
I think after the Austin Peay game, they should have pulled Joe Milton, and they should have put Nico in from there.
Yeah. I think Nico's got better touch. I mean, he's already made throws. But can he read the defense? You know, the stuff that we don't think about, that they're out there. I think Milton does read the defense, or we wouldn't be running the football the way we run it. Now, the passing side of things, definitely, there's a huge drop-off, and I 100% think that he's a big factor in that. But if you can run for 250 a game, that means you're controlling the game. But when we get to the 10-yard line, you have to score touchdowns. You have to score touchdowns. That's why we lost against Bama, because we got there and we took 3. And Kentucky's just not good enough to be like, oh, they kicked 4 field goals or however many we kicked. All we got to do is go and score some touchdowns. No, they're a team that kicks field goals too. I mean, it is what it is.
All right, so let's look at the pros, and then we can look at the cons. The pros, we had 3 incomplete passes, 0 turnovers. We ran for 253 yards. Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson combined for roughly 220 yards of total offense. We put up 33. First of all, we won a road game. We've looked like shit on the road for over a year. I don't count Vanderbilt, but this is the first time that we looked halfway competent on the road in about 13, 14 months. So I'll start there. The cons, the red zone offense is not good. I will agree with y'all on that. And another, probably more concerning than that right now, Devin Leary's stats like the last 4 games before us was terrible, and we made that kid look like a Heisman candidate. And we went for 372.
But you also got to factor in that they got a bye week to put specific things in for him, and they knew we were stopping the run. Like, that was our priority.
Well,
like I said, I want to see it again. Like, when we play Missouri, I don't think we're running that same top. Like, we're blitzing a little more. Hopefully we're not getting held as much. I have it up, and we just got absolutely mauled trying to get to him.
This defense under Heupel too is, it's a bend but don't break. It's a, hey, keep them to 20, 24, 28 points, and we're going to score 40. I mean, that's the whole, idea of us going fast is, it's kind of like the system in basketball. We're just going to score. That, defense, if you hold them to 30 points and we're averaging 40, 45, it don't matter. Who cares? I mean, if you're running that fast of an offense, you're scoring like we did last year in a minute, 2 minutes, whatever. You're having 5-play drives instead of 14. Your defense is going to be either really, really in shape, or they're going to be gassed. And you just got to get one pick and a couple of stops a game to win. And the games that didn't work last year was South Carolina. We still scored how many points in that game? 30 something,
38 or something. Like that.
They just gash us. So it's one of them things where, it's like live by the three, but die by the three. If you're hitting them, everything's great. But if you're not, it's going to be a long day.
I heard somebody, I don't know who it was. Somebody said that we are bad in the red zone. You need to rephrase that. We're bad in the red zone at scoring touchdowns, because we were 4 for 4 in the red zone last night.
Yeah.
So
we're bad at scoring touchdowns when we get to the 10-yard line.
Yes.
If we're back a little bit, they don't seem to have a problem. It's weird.
And I talked to Harb last night about it. I think they still, for some reason, they do not trust Joe Milton in that area of the field. I don't know why at this point.
And maybe that's what it is. Maybe they don't believe in his arm, or
the play calling got, and not that it's super wide open in the middle of the field, but one possession, I think I tweeted it. Sprint draw, quarterback sprint option, to the short side of the field. Next play, quarterback draw. Next play, he looked to pass. And they were 3rd and 12. Couldn't find anybody.
Oh, that was after the face mask, right? That they didn't call.
Yes, that they did not call. So, I just let him throw it on 2nd down. And I know he threw a pick at A&M there in the red zone, but sometimes you got to let him rip it through. And it worked out last night. They ended up winning. They scored 33 points. But it seems to me when they get in the red zone, especially inside the 10, the playbook really shrinks down, and they're like, we're just going to run it or run something really like the touchdown at Alabama to Castle last week. That was an easy pitch and catch. It was a great play design, but it was a one route deal. Like, it was either that or throw it away, I'm assuming. So I don't know. The only frustrating thing I had from last night, I'm not mad about the defense, to be honest. It was frustrating watching it. I was looking up total defense. Tennessee's 26th in the country in total defense. They're 61st in pass defense.
I think that was the plan. That's why it didn't frustrate me. They're throwing and catching, but they said, we've watched on film, you can't make this throw. And he made the throw. It happened.
Yeah.
But you also saw why they were like, can you make this throw? He had some awful, awful throws. Like, there's one I don't even remember. It was like a mile over the guy's head. I'm like, who are you throwing to?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But I thought Joe Milton, while we're talking about him, not to beat a dead horse here, he was 18 of 21, 228, 1 touchdown. Rushing the football, he was 10 carries for 42 yards. So what is that? 274 yards on the ground, or total offense from him last night. I don't know. I thought he played really well, managed the game, didn't make any mistakes.
He played good.
I
played really good.
He's really done a lot better with running the football and like tucking it and taking off, getting some meaningful yardage out of the deal. I will give him his flowers on that.
I think part of it is, and this is kind of Aiden to your point, Montana. I think for that little stretch where we were like, why isn't he throwing? Why is he afraid of contact? I think that was when Nico was kind of banged up, and they kind of tried to keep it a secret a little bit.
Yeah, I heard something about that too.
I truly think part of it was we really don't need you going down because
that may be why we haven't seen him, Nico.
He has been injured. I can confirm that.
And that's another reason. Now, I think maybe he's potentially healthy now, so that's why they're giving him the green light to kind of lower his shoulder and take some more legs. Maybe I might be over speculating, but I think that's a good little paper trail to think about. But
what about Dante Thornton? A Dante Thornton sighting last night. 3 catches, 63 yards. Squirrel White, 5 for 47. Chaz Nidmerod, 1 catch, but it was a big one, 39-yard touchdown catch. He was the only wide receiver to catch a touchdown pass. We had 2 rushing touchdowns, one from Dylan Sampson, one from Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright was on the opening possession of the game, 52-yarder. But, man, I just thought the wide receivers played well for once. They did a good job breaking off the routes, helping out the quarterback. Milton made some good throws on the run to him. I thought the most complete game we've played all year besides maybe the South Carolina game. I thought the South Carolina game we played start to finish pretty well. Maybe in some lapses in there periodically, but that's going to happen in a football game. Happens in every sport, to be honest. But I thought Tennessee did everything they needed to do last night. Could they played a little bit better pass defense? Yeah, obviously. But they play like that the rest of the year. They'll definitely beat UConn. They'll definitely beat Vandy. They'll have a good shot to beat Missouri. And I don't think we beat Georgia at home, but this team is just a totally different team at Neyland Stadium. That crowd really affects them. Just the total vibe around the area is just totally different around this team when they're in Neyland Stadium. And college football, I'm telling you, anything can happen. It's November. There's injuries. It's late in the season. There's a lot on the line for some of these teams. Who knows? Go out there and play the game and see what happens. They could win. Now, will they? Probably not. But you don't know. I mean, I didn't think Kansas would beat Oklahoma yesterday.
For a Missouri loss.
I mean, I didn't think OU would lose to Kansas, and Kansas isn't a bad team, but I think Oklahoma's better than they are. But
see, personal opinion, might be a little bit of a hot take. I think we have a better shot against Georgia than we do Missouri, truthfully. Going to Como, that is 99% going to be a night game. That place is weird. They can score, and they got a stud receiver. I can't think of his name right now. Hadn't been down, that's going to affect that quite a bit. And I've seen it
last night too.
I'm gonna have to see it to believe it to see us put 2 road games back to back together.
Sure. But
now
they have to play Georgia before us.
Yes. Now proof's in the pudding when we play at home, though. We play really well against really good teams. We handle business against inferior teams. I think anything can happen. That place is obviously going to be rocking. So if we play like we did Saturday night in Como, we're going to have a good chance of winning. But Missouri's obviously better than Kentucky. So we'll see. Yeah. It's going to be a pretty exciting finish to the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, Missouri is better than Kentucky. I mean, we played Kentucky, they played Kentucky, and they beat them by 2 touchdowns, and we beat them by 1. So
yeah, but that's it's
tough. You can't really go on that, but
I don't think Missouri has a good defense. Like what I've watched, they're not great on defense. So if you can turn 2 of the 4 field goals you hit into 2 of them into touchdowns, I mean, you've scored enough to beat Missouri.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's going to be a tight game back and forth, and it's whoever doesn't make the big mistake and whoever makes the most plays is going to win. It's just how it is. They're 2 pretty even teams. Now, Do we have more talent than they do? Probably, but they're set up. I guess they've gelled. They're a different team than we all thought they would be at this point in the season. And they still may lose 2 or 3 games. They still got to play Georgia. They got to play us. I think, do they still play Florida yet?
Yeah, they still have to play Florida.
I mean, I think they beat Florida, but they might not.
So they got Georgia this week. Because we play UConn.
Yes.
Then Missouri. Yeah, so they play Georgia.
I think the biggest story is it's been like every game this year. If we run the ball for 250, which that's crazy to say, but I mean, hell, that's what we're averaging or more. If we run the ball and we take care of the ball and we get a couple stops, we're going to win the football game. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. If we don't run the ball and we don't get a couple stops, we're going to lose.
Well, Tennessee does what they just continued to do last night. Harb and Big Montana Day. They're going to win some football games to finish the season. We're going to go to a decent bowl game. It's not probably going to be the Orange Bowl. But I was just thinking last night, and I was listening to Kentucky Sports Radio, was perusing around the internet, Twitter, X, whatever it's called. What if Tennessee wins out, goes 10-2? It's a possibility. The possibilities aren't high. I was looking ahead at future games like this Saturday against UConn. We're 97 point something percent favorites to win according to FPI. Against Missouri, we're 55% percentage points to win, or whatever all that means. Against Vandy, we're 98%, so same as UConn. So we're 3 of our final 4 games, and I don't know betting line if we're going to be, but as far as the football power index or whatever that is, we're going to be favored in those 3 games. So there's a really good chance to go 9-3. And what if they slip up at home and catch Georgia on a bad night and find a way to win, force some turnovers? Carson Beck has a bad night. Joe Milton gets hot. The running game's good. You never know. I mean, 10-2 is still on the table, so this team still has a lot to play for. And I think that was my whole argument with sticking with Joe Milton, sticking with what got us to this point right now. I know we lost to Florida. We're going to look back at that Florida game, I think, at some point and say, like, my God, what a blown opportunity. But not Joe Milton stunk. We couldn't run the ball. We played awful defensively, a lot of mistakes. It was just bad.
That was a team effort on that loss. Coaching, everything.
I mean, if you win out, that Florida game cost you a playoff spot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What has to happen? I mean, I know it's not likely, but so if we went out, we beat Georgia, what has to happen for us to win the East? Georgia has to lose one more game?
Georgia needs to lose to Missouri, probably.
Georgia would need to lose one game plus us.
Missouri would need to beat Florida.
Missouri's done played Georgia, I thought.
No. They play this week.
They play this week.
Don't they have to play Mississippi too? Georgia?
I don't.
Yeah, they have to play Ole Miss. Yeah, they got a tough little finish.
Just think if old Lane Kiffin did one for us.
I mean, my uncle, you may have, I don't know if he texted to the JWTDG group, Big Montana, or if it was another one. I can't remember, but he just said what I just said. A lot of crazy things can happen in college football, especially when you get late in the year. And Tennessee goes out, takes care of business, and against Missouri, against UConn, against Vandy, and they find a way to beat Georgia, and Georgia slips up somewhere else, and Florida could easily lose another game. Look how bad they looked yesterday. Guys, we're going to Atlanta if that happens. So I
don't even know. Does Florida have to lose another one?
How many conference losses do they have?
They have 2
in Georgia.
So we're technically, we have 1, correct?
No,
we have 2. So they're still ahead of us by tiebreaker.
Yeah,
but
they still have to play LSU.
Yeah, they still. I mean, they've got some more losses that they're staring at. But if it goes down to ends, it's like, how do they find the I guess it is the head-to-head there. Because at one time we lost to them, or we beat them and lost to Georgia, and we ended up going, and everybody had the same amount of losses.
Well,
remember they used to do it by the BCS standings. I don't know what they do now.
What happened in 2007 when we went? Because we lost to Bama that year. We lost to Florida.
We lost 3 conference games. We lost to Cal, which is not a conference game, but then we lost to Florida, Alabama. That may have been it.
We went 9-3.
No. We lost to Auburn for our third SEC loss. To LSU in the championship game.
Yeah.
But we had 2 conference losses, 3 total, by the end of the regular season. But yeah, it could happen. It's probably a little far-fetched at this point, but that was
I don't see it.
To wrap up what I was trying to say is I think playing Joe Milton gives you that opportunity. I think you're taking it, and you could go out there and throw Nico out there and he throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns and the running game's explosive. He also may not do that. And I think with Joe Milton, if he goes out and they let him throw like he did last night, 21 passes, and we rush the ball for 47 times for 271 and 2 touchdowns, we're probably going to win. I'm just saying we're probably going to win under that formula, which is what we've been saying all year. Joe Milton does not need to go out there and throw 35 passes. That's asking way too much out of the guy.
Yeah.
And that's not
There's that throw to Thornton.
That's not a degrading comment on him. It's just not who he is. It's just some people aren't who we would like him to be, and that's just the way he is. So, if he goes out and is 18-21 against Georgia for 228, and we rush the ball for 5.4 yards a carry against the Bulldogs, I promise you we win that game at home here in a couple weeks. If we do that against Missouri, we win the football game. So the reason I'm not for putting Nico in is, one, he's a freshman. Let him sit over there and marinate. Let him sit over there and learn. He has been banged up. Let's not put him in a bad spot. And I get the whole playing time thing. I do. But if you don't have to, don't do it.
Yeah. Well,
we don't have to. We don't have to.
I was talking to a buddy about it last night.
What?
Georgia willingly played a walk-on quarterback. Granted, they won 2 natties, but they didn't let Beck get in there, and I think it actually helped them a little bit.
Do you think there is a possibility that Nico would transfer?
I don't.
Sure. In this day,
there's a possibility, but I don't think he does.
I don't think it'd be because he's mad about playing time.
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, well, like Dede said, I don't. Is there a chance? Sure, just because that's the norm now, but it won't be because he didn't play his freshman year.
So, is he still considered a red shirt, or is this all gone? Is it all gone?
No,
he
still has a red shirt.
4 games.
He can play in 4 games, and he's only played in 1.
Yeah,
right.
He's still good.
Virginia game.
Mm-hmm. And then he was injured sometime after that. I don't know what the extent of the injury was, but they've just been very careful with him. And I will say, somebody mentioned this earlier. Josh Heupel he's got something for Milton. He is very loyal to that guy. I don't know what it is. He started him over Hooker 2 years ago. I don't know what it is, but
what's funny too is that, and I don't know if it has to do with just us winning, but I'm gonna be honest with you, our fans are very loyal to him for the most part. There's a big group of our fans that love Joe Milton, and I've heard
a good personality.
He does, and he's probably a great kid or a great young man. He's not a kid.
He ain't a kid no more.
But somebody, but people have commented on the fact that Jarrett Garantano, everybody wanted him strung up, but he loved the University of Tennessee, and I think about that Auburn game, and him crying after beating Kentucky. He loved UT, and hell, we were throwing him to the damn wolves over a bunch of stuff. And then somebody commented, well, too, like whenever he threw his hissy fit in that Georgia Tech game or whatever, like it rubbed people the wrong way. But I just
the great Alabama debacle is when I think people really turn on him.
Yeah. But it's just funny how, because in years past, I think we always attacked the quarterback because we just wanted our coach to be good, and we didn't want to like blame it on the coaching for the most part. But now I think that we know we have a really good coach and he's offensive mind. So people are going after the, whatever. I don't know, but I'm glad we're winning. That's for sure. It covers up everything.
Any closing thoughts on the Kentucky game, Harbin?
Could you imagine?
I can't. I tried to think about it last night and today. I still can't imagine.
Man, you got to give credit to you got to get. And I guess that Florida fans feel like this about UT fans, but it's the same damn thing.
Alabama too.
Yeah,
I mean,
Alabama. We're a streaky series with Alabama.
It's like you're right, and it's like I don't was it Harbin I think last week said Alabama and Florida probably respect us more than we respect Kentucky. I don't have any respect for Kentucky.
Yeah, no.
I think they're a good.
Worry about them playing Kentucky.
No, and I think Mark Stoops has done a good job up there. You look at the history of Kentucky football; they're not good. When I was growing up, they were winning 2 or 3 games a year. It was them and Vandy were automatic wins at the end of the season. Now, although they were tough games sometimes, but they were automatic W's. That's not automatic anymore. It's a fight when you play those guys.
It's pretty much been a fight since 2008-9. I mean, we had a couple of overtime games with I remember I was down there for the 08 or it was 07. It was the game right before the SEC championship where all they had to do was kick a field goal and they couldn't do it. And I was there for that one, and the next year was the fake ticket debacle.
That was 09. That was an overtime game.
I bought 3 sets of damn counterfeit tickets, spent about $700 to see us go into overtime in Kentucky.
I remember that night very well because you were madder than heck after that game. We didn't know about it while it was going on, I don't think, because we were all sitting separate places.
Yeah, well, I mean, awful night. I would have went to jail if I had found that guy on that bicycle. That bicycle would have disappeared up his ass.
+1 for digital tickets.
Yeah, yes, that is a good thing.
I don't miss all the scalpers.
That was the last time I bought scalper tickets for anything.
So
just real quick, last thing. Very seriously though, I mean, we joke about Kentucky a lot. This weekend, that was a huge win. Like, seriously. It was expected, but to actually go and do it and prove that you can win on the road against at least semi-competent opponent, that was big.
The pulse.
There is a huge difference between being 6-2 with a win over Kentucky and 5-3 with a loss to Kentucky.
Yeah.
There's a massive difference. And
boys, any SEC win except for Vanderbilt is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Because an interception here or there, and a fumble and a kick return, anybody can lose very easily.
I tweeted this yesterday. The South Carolina game, the Texas A&M game, the Kentucky game, those are all programs we want to separate ourselves from, because now, in the eyes of some around the conference, maybe not as many anymore, but around the nation, that's kind of the tier we're still in, even though we had a really good year last year. But if you want to separate yourselves from that tier, you got to beat those teams. And we've done that this year for the most part. Florida was a hiccup. Alabama and Georgia are in tier A. We're in tier B right now. But I think we're ahead program-wise. I mean, we recruit right there with A&M. Florida recruits pretty highly. Kentucky recruits below us. South Carolina recruits below us. But I think we've taken that step, and that the Missouri game in a couple weeks is going to be another one. Like, we go out there and win that game, it shows that this program is here and they're there. If you're listening, I've got my hands up. But, I mean, it's it's an opportunity to go out and win a game and show that this program is not what it used to be. And I think they've, over the last 3 years, they've done a good job of that. I mean, they slipped up against Ole Miss in 21, but for the most part, that was we didn't expect 7 wins that year.
Ole Miss was pretty good.
Yeah, and Ole Miss was good. And then
went on to win 10.
Last year we 11-2. But I mean, those 3 wins this year I thought have been really key wins, because just from a perception standpoint, because it does put Tennessee up there above those programs. I mean, South Carolina stinks right now. Kentucky is what they are. A&M is overrated as they were last year. They're not as bad as they were last year, but they've got issues.
They got serious talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of talent. And we do too, but we're still trying to dig ourselves out of that. I hate to keep saying that, but we're still trying to dig ourselves out of that Pruitt regime, and it's going to take some time. I mean, it's scholarship limits, the hole we were dug in, and all that stuff's over with now, and it's time to start building that. And I think winning games like last night, winning games at Missouri, that's huge for this program going forward when you have Nico in his second year and all these other guys, Boo Carter at Bradley Central coming in. That can take it to that next level and maybe get us up to tier A, beat Florida, beat Georgia, beat Alabama on a consistent basis. But this is part of the process. But I think that was a huge win, like Harbin said. Yeah. And I'm old school. I know Vanderbilt sucks, and Kentucky is what they are. I love beating those 2 schools. The old-time Tennessee fans love beating Vandy and Kentucky. I think of Gus Manning in those games, Haywood Harris, Johnny Majors, even Philip Fulmer, all those guys. That was, they're our rivals, and they're not very good, but you want to beat them and keep them down there, keep them below you, and that's what we did last night. So we got the Huskies this weekend, Harbin, UConn. The Fighting Gino REM is coming to town. Vols, I just saw, were minus 34.5.
Sheesh.
Saturday, 97% chance to win.
Are we going to wear Lady Vol blue somewhere on our uniform
maybe?
Just to give them. I think it'd be awesome if we could wear both.
Give me them black cleats, fellas. I loved them last night. God, they were so cool.
I'll be honest with you. I love the black cleats. I don't like the orange socks.
So Harbin, what did we say last night?
I thought the orange accessories looked really good on the all whites.
See, I personally like the all whites, like everything white, even the white cleats. But I just think football cleats should be black in general.
I like the black cleats and the black socks. I just think it makes you look. I don't know. I like the look. I just think it makes your uniform pop.
Well, what really messed with my mind is half the players were wearing orange socks and half of them weren't.
Yeah, they were.
I understand that a lot of linemen, their freaking legs are the size of an Angus bull. They're not going to be able to wear some, wide receiver sock on their leg. But it just kind of threw me off a little bit. But
no.
How Walmart did Kentucky's jerseys look last night?
At least they didn't have checkerboard in them like they used to.
They do.
Those
I saw it. I don't remember
really?
exactly where it was, but they're there.
I didn't see that.
It's almost like they went to Walmart and bought these off the rack and then put them on over shoulder pads. Their jerseys look awful.
It's the collar. I just saw it again. It's the collar.
Really? I didn't
even
know.
The orange collar. It's in that collar.
The Wildcat on their shoulder pad just looks stupid too.
That's like that Smokey they came out with when Mike Hamilton was here.
The Walmart Smokey, yes. It's the dumbest logo we've ever had, ever.
Why you go away from the other ones, I don't understand. But I got into this whole sorry, Harbin, go ahead.
That Wildcat they have looks like when you would play NCAA 14 and it had FCS Northeast. And that Wildcats, that's what that looked like.
Yeah. I did kind of go down a rabbit hole. I think it was last night because I saw I knew the Titans were wearing the Oilers jerseys this weekend. And then I saw that the Dolphins were wearing their 70s throwbacks, which they should never leave those.
Agreed.
And then the Seahawks were wearing their throwbacks.
Listen, I hate the Eagles. Those Eagles, Kelly Green, on that was it Thursday night. They were
Sweet
so good.
That's a slick. I will say this: the Oilers jerseys are a very close second, but I wish they'd wear the powder blue Oiler helmet with those jerseys instead of the white one. That powder blue Oiler helmet with just the white.
I went to a game several years ago. Chris Johnson was the running back, and they played Buffalo, and they had an old AFL throwback game, and Buffalo had their very first away uniforms, and then the Oilers the Titans wore the blue with the blue helmet with just the white oil rig.
That's my favorite one.
It was very cool. Yeah, it was the last time they wore them. That was it was actually my birthday, I think in 2008. Me and my dad went to that game, and it was Chris Johnson, Vince Young. I think T.O. was playing for the Bills at that time, if I remember correctly. So it was, Tennessee blew them out. They were really good that year too.
Was that Randy Moss time in Nashville when he played for the Titans? No.
Randy Moss played for the Titans?
Yeah, very short.
It wasn't.
I don't think it was.
I don't remember when it was.
I don't remember that.
Before we pivot away from football, because it's going to happen, I just want to say that one negative niece used derogatory terms to a group of guys over trying to tell him that the officiating changed the game.
We have already.
No, I ain't done.
Oh, okay.
2 weeks ago. Now, I think Tennessee, because I wasn't on here last week, played piss poor in the second half. But they also were done no favors whatsoever. The Phantom fair catch, numerous holds here and there. And I just want to make it a point to point out that we have now went 8 quarters, 2 complete games without one live penalty called on the opponent.
That is incredible. It is incredible. And I did say some stuff
and there
that Alabama game.
Very obvious things going on. It's not like, that's a 50-50 call. No, it is a 100%. This was pass interference. 100%. This guy's getting choked out. It's a hold. 100%. Whatever you want to call it. But we were called names.
Well, you were, and I apologize. I just want
everybody know a backtrack happened.
I big time backtrack. Because look, I was in the upper deck of Bryant Denny. I didn't see Tyler Barron get rear naked chokehold. I did not see some of this stuff, and
you could have saw that shit from Birmingham.
I told you all I was drugged, and I apologize.
And
this was after the game, not during the game.
Here's the thing: the onside kick thing, I think, changed the game more than the missed Barron thing. But a guy from Florida yesterday did the actually more egregious, closer to the ball, and they didn't call it, and it's on film.
Hey,
it's like, what are we doing?
I'm more upset that of all the time and all the games that I've been to with Nice, that his first nicotine encounter was not with me, but with some rando in Bryant Denny.
It wasn't rando, but
what's funny is like I've seen you like smoke cigars, obviously last year, and like you never like went down. I really thought you could handle the old.
It blew my mind. It really blew my mind. I don't know what happened. I talked to Harbin about it last night. It scared me. I was scared to death. I didn't know what was going on. But I will say, I went back and I sat through it and watched the replay of the Bama game. It was bad, yeah. It was bad. And then,
it was.
Like Day said, and Harbin and I talked about it too last night. How does a team go 2 straight games, 8 quarters, and their opponent not have a live ball penalty? And live ball means after the ball snapped. Neither of these teams had one. Not a hold, not a pass interference, not lined up in the neutral zone. Nothing. They didn't have nothing. Not an illegal man downfield. Not a I don't know what else could we have called. Illegal hands to the face. Nothing.
Defensive holding, which happened numerous times. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it is. There's something going on.
Is this a conspiracy, Harbin?
Well, if you've paid attention at all this past week, some conspiracy theories have legs, so maybe it is.
And that was something else I wanted to talk about too, is this stuff with Michigan, which has a direct tie into the University of Tennessee. So if y'all haven't heard this, Michigan has been accused of a sign stealing type Houston Astros type scandal, maybe worse, where a staffer, Connor Stallions, is that how you say his name, was buying tickets to a lot of mostly Big Ten schools to send people to, and they would sit opposite of the sideline of the team they wanted to scout, and they would video it on their iPhone. And then they would basically put a chart together of the play calls, hand signals, whatever they were putting in. Well, then it comes out later in the week that they also bought tickets to Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson outside of the Big Ten. And then it came out after that and it came from some pretty viable sources, that this information was either given to or sold to for Clemson and South Carolina, or for Clemson and Tennessee to South Carolina. And the more you sit and read about it,
and they paid for it, I really do, because that makes it even worse.
The more you read about it, and then you look at Shane Beamer's past, he's been busted for this before. When he was at Virginia Tech, he was involved with Wake Forest radio. I think it was his radio announcer sold the playbook of Wake Forest to other schools, and he was one of them that got it. And I think he was fined like $35,000 for it. But I'm very interested to see where this goes. There's not been much talk about it the last 2 or 3 days. I think it'll pick back up here pretty soon, but I'm really hoping there's legs to this, and it really just guts Michigan football. And Jim Harbaugh is going to leave and go, but I mean, when you look back on it, I mean, I know it doesn't matter now, if we get a win or not, but it's just something was not right about that South Carolina game. And now, knowing what we have heard this week, does that change your opinion about that game last year and what happened?
We still got ran.
It does mine.
I mean, we got ran, but because it shouldn't give them 63 points, if we're being honest. But it definitely more and more comes out. I mean, it had an effect on the game if they have you plays. And everybody's like, well, they still play all the time. Sure, you do, but you don't get to literally break down every single individual play. Because, like, you watch film here, you don't see the sideline the whole game, and you're seeing all the signs. Maybe once out of 35 plays do they show the sideline when an actual play is being called in. So, yes, you can look from the other side, but then you have to go back and remember, and you can't, just, I have all this video. Let me break it down. Let me put on a wristband, and now it's color-coded to what their colors are, and it's boom, boom.
Well, the way I look at it is the 3 games that they played before the Tennessee game, they had 1 or 0 offensive touchdowns. And then against us, they had 9. Obviously, knowing what's going on isn't a non-touchdown difference. They played well. But after that, against Clemson, who was a very good team, playoff contender, they scored 5 at Clemson. I mean, is it possible that they got hot? Sure. But
look what they've done this year.
So
exactly.
That's the way I look at it.
The proof is in the pudding with how they are this year. They are trash.
So I was talking to a South Carolina fan because I had posted something on Instagram, and one of my aunt's friends from over there, big Gamecock fan, she's like, "What is this?" She didn't know anything about it, and I was trying to tell her what was going on. And I said, I said, look into this and then tell me what you think. And she said, well, that is kind of fishy, but I just don't think Shane Beamer would do that. Then I sent her the stuff about Beamer at Virginia Tech, and she's like, well, we had a new offensive coordinator the game we played. And I said, are you seriously telling me that Freddie Kitchens was worth 57 points? Because they scored 6 against Florida the week before, and put him in at offensive coordinator. They scored 57 more points the next week because of him. Give me a break. Get out of here. It's not real.
By the way, that 6 came off of a fake punt.
Okay, even better. So 63 points.
I will say that was probably my worst road experience in a game.
Yeah.
At the South Carolina game.
Yeah, it was awful.
Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine would be a
also,
tie between that one and 07 Florida. But yeah, go ahead, Harvey.
There's also ties because South Carolina's defensive coordinator was the DB coach under Harbaugh when he was at Stanford.
Yep.
There's another connection right there. And I don't know. It's funny because I would love a documentary come out about this because this cat, I forgot his name, but this cat at Michigan had this thing so well thought out. But he was a dummy in the aspect that he left a massive paper trail.
Yeah, I mean, he'd buying it with his real name and transferring.
Right. Yeah, and he had
How
this.
stupid can he be?
Yeah.
He had this Google Doc that was 550 to 600 pages long called the Michigan Manifesto. And it was essentially how him and his buddies were going to take over Michigan's football program and run it for years because he was that big of a Michigan fan. And then he went to the Marines, not because he wanted to serve his country. It's because he researched the best head coaches of all time. 99% of them had a military background. He was that committed to this that he went to the damn Marines. That's insane.
He was doing everything right except the cheating part.
Burning evidence.
I mean, seriously, like you think, and has anybody that's ever written a manifesto, have they ever been a good person?
No.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, no, this guy's got some shady.
That's a good point, Niece.
Some shady dealings here.
When we record next week, Jim Harbaugh will not be Michigan's head coach.
Really?
I don't know. I don't think he's out yet.
I've read.
But you might be right. I mean,
well, they've already
will come out.
They've already pulled back their offer that would make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. So they've already done that, and I forgot where I heard it, so it doesn't make it reliable. But I've heard that November 1st, aka Wednesday, he is essentially going to be forced to step down. And so if it's true, you can holler at me. If it's wrong, you can say I'm a dummy. But
I'll still holler at you.
He won't be around. He won't be around for the postseason.
2 Michigan coaches out in the same year. Michigan State and Michigan both. That'd be something to see.
Damn dumpster fire up there.
Yeah.
Well, look at Michigan, the governor of Michigan.
Michigan will hire Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
a man of high morals.
If you follow the message board genius account on Twitter, they're already talking about Urban Meyer to Michigan State. That is crazy though that Stallions guy had that manifesto, and he basically, I'm sure he looked like General Robert Nealon, great wartime general and great football coach, and other folks who have been football coaches that have military backgrounds. He went to Navy. He's they talked about his growing up, he's a Michigan fan. Like he's like us with Tennessee. I mean, he's that deeply committed to Michigan and the Michigan way, but I don't think he's going to be coaching football anytime soon. If this stuff is true, which it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up football talk here. I don't think any of us are worried about UConn this weekend, are we?
Shouldn't be. How about that?
I would like to see us wear all orange, not the helmets. But
I want the helmets. Put the cap on.
Anyway,
what game is that going to be? Because they're going to wear them down orange helmets.
Bandy.
I don't think they're contracted to wear them, honestly.
I don't know that they will, because there was a lot of I felt like there was more flack against those than there was good vibes. Like everybody was pretty good vibes with the throwbacks this year, the Connor Holloways and the blacks and the smoky grays. But those helmets caught a lot of heat last year. Plus, we lost the game. So.
I would like to see us wear I'd like to see us wear orange jerseys, orange pants, and not
That's
like we did for
insane.
you, like we did for UT Martin last year. Wear the baby blue accessories. I think that'd be a cool touch because we're obviously not going to trot out
Baby
the baby
blue.
blue trim.
Squirrel White just got murdered, and they didn't even call pass interference.
Day Day's over here, live commentating on the game from last night.
It's just frustrating. I just have it on just because. But I mean, Squirrel just got murdered in the corner of the end zone.
So, did you see in the Titans game today, DeAndre Hopkins got away with an offensive pass
he got
for Will Levis's first touchdown pass. I mean, it's
insane.
It is. If
OPI.
you sit back and watch a football game anymore, the amount of hand fighting and holding and shoving between wide receivers and defensive backs it is crazy how much they let these guys get away with. I don't necessarily mind it, but I think sometimes they let way too much go. And I guess they're afraid to throw too many flags, but sometimes they let way too much go. And I mean, I was watching the game at my parents' this afternoon, and I was like, that's offensive pass interference. And I'm a Titans fan. And I mean, it was. I mean, It just was, but they didn't call it. So whatever. Now, I will say, well, I'll save that for basketball talk. But Vols and UConn this weekend. It's homecoming on the hill. Tennessee Walking Horse will be out there prancing around pregame. I don't know that we'll have much of a tailgate this weekend for the noon kickoff. So if you're by there in the area and want to come see us, come have a mimosa with us. We might be getting some Bojangles pregame, but other than that, it's probably going to be pretty laid back. Just hang out, go into the game, and then go home and watch some nighttime football. But be good to go to a Tennessee game this weekend and it be stress-free because we've had some pretty intense football games the last 3 to 4 weeks. So it'd be good to have a breather before we go on this final gauntlet the rest of the year. Well, Vandy's not part of the gauntlet, but last two games. Switching gears now to the basketball team. Yes, it's October and there's basketball going on. I don't know that I've ever watched Tennessee play basketball in October before. But this is Sunday. They played this afternoon in an exhibition game in East Lansing at the Breslin Center against Michigan State Spartans, who are ranked number 4. Tennessee's number 9. And the Vols won 89-88. And I didn't know what to expect when I turned it on. I didn't know if it was going to be, are they wearing full uniforms? Are they treating this like a preseason, NFL does where they dress out and do, the place was packed. It was sold out. Both teams were in their uniforms. They're playing a straight up game except for the foul situation. Nobody fouls out. They do count fouls, but
that was weird to me.
So I was watching afterwards, Kansas and Illinois was playing, and they did the same thing. So it must be something they all agree to across the board. But this was, I don't know if y'all watched it, and I didn't get to watch the whole thing. I watched the first 5 minutes. I was at a funeral and then got home, watched the last 15-ish minutes of the game. And I don't know. It felt like a March matchup, like a Elite 8, Sweet 16, maybe Final Four type matchup. Michigan State's supposed to be really good this year. I think them and Purdue are picked to finish 1-2 in the Big Ten. Tennessee was picked to win the SEC. It was a really fun. I wasn't sitting on the edge of my seat like, God, we got to win this game. But it got a lot more intense than I thought it would. The crowd was really into it. You would have thought it was a big time, and it was a big time matchup, but just the way the crowd was into it, it was loud. It was really cool to see. I wish they would do more of this in college basketball, and they may going forward, where these teams like Tennessee and Michigan State, I saw Kansas and Illinois were playing. They're 1-25. More of these big time programs play each other in games that don't matter. And it was a good litmus test for both teams. Tom Izzo said after the game, he said, we didn't play very well at some points, but then we played really good at different points. We forced 20 turnovers against Tennessee, but Tennessee forced 17 against us, and they shot really well. And I mean, there was things that both coaches, I think, saw against a really, I think you would say more than quality opponent that they wouldn't find if Tennessee's playing Tennessee Tech or whoever it is right out of the gate. And I just thought it was really cool to sit there. And I did find myself at different points, like, really invested in that game like it counted. It didn't count. I mean, Tennessee posted after the game, they usually post the score, and they posted October basketball, and then the score where it would be for each team, it just said didn't count. It was all they put. It was really, but I'm sitting there like, we need to win this game. And I'm like, why do we need to win this game? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't count, but a lot of good things out of Tennessee. We lost Day, by the way, in our intermission here. But he was talking to us before he left that Tennessee played 10 guys today, and 2 of them weren't even there. I mean, Double Z was there, but Vescovi's back home with his family as his grandmother's ill or passed away. And, I mean, they played 10 today and didn't really miss a beat when any combination of those 10 were out on the court. Shot really well from the field. Let's see, 51%. That was a bugaboo for the team last year at different points. Shot really well from 3-point range, 52.4%. Shot 72% from the free throw line. 22 points in the paint. I mean, I think we all said last year that was something that was lacking from Tennessee. Fast break points, 22. I thought Tennessee did a good job of the points that I saw of pushing the basketball up the floor. Not that they were playing system or anything, but, they looked like they were pushing tempo just a little bit more. But 13 points off the bench, 17 points off of turnovers. Just a really good outing for Tennessee right out of the gate. Did either one of y'all get to watch the game this afternoon?
Yeah, I watched it. My Dallas Cowboys were absolutely putting on a clinic today on how to be a pro football team again. And they were actually winning so good that they changed the broadcast to the Eagles-Redskins game. And I was like, I care nothing about this. And I was just scrolling through Twitter, and I saw there was a game on. I was like, what? Like, I really haven't been present on Twitter in a minute. And I was like, well, let's go see if we can find this. And we were up like 30 to – we were up like 15, 16 points when I turned it on. And I was like, well, dang. So it was – it didn't count. But it was a tough game. Like, they were playing hard. I thought it was kind of weird they were not worried about the fouls. I don't see how that benefits anybody.
They did the same thing in preseason basketball and summer league in the NBA. You can't foul it. Yeah.
I think Meshack had 9 fouls today. I'm pretty sure he had 9 fouls. He fouled out early like right after halftime. He fouled out.
Yeah. So, if you can't foul out, why don't you just absolutely demolish people every play? That's what I'd do. Not in my house.
Yeah, it was a physical game. It was Harbin, if you get a chance, go back and watch it. Tennessee jumped out on them. I think Tennessee was up 17-1.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, Michigan State had 5 turnovers and 1 field goal attempt in that stretch early on. Tennessee's defense was suffocating. They were shooting the ball really well. There was a lapse there in the first half. I didn't see it, but Michigan State got hot. But they're a good team. I don't expect to play a team like that and beat them by 20 points. You might, but most of the time you're not going to. It's going to be a tight back and forth game. But if Tennessee wants to advance in March, that's the type of game they're going to have to win. And it's not going to be that rowdy of an atmosphere, but they got I was on that Hoop Southbound podcast a couple weeks ago, and I talked about it. They've got a really tough non-conference schedule out of the gate. So I was curious today watching that game to see how they paired up, which I besides Gonzaga and Purdue and I guess Kansas that they could play in Maui, that's the best team they're going to play this preseason. I mean, they've got Illinois, who's top 25, but Wisconsin's not ranked, which I think Tennessee's better than those two teams, but that is the best team they're going to play besides maybe a Kansas, Gonzaga, or Purdue coming up. So that was.
I do have one comment about the game. Isn't it wild that Rick Barnes and Tom Izzo have done more for Maui than our president has?
It's not surprising. I mean, it's really not. Does he even know where Maui is?
I made that comment earlier. I will say the one thing that happened again today is the droughts of scoring. I mean, I know it's the first game, and I'm not sitting here critiquing anybody, but like that was one thing that killed us last year. This team cannot go 3 or 4 minutes without a bucket. And that's honestly how Michigan State got back in the game today. I mean, that's how they erased a 18 or 17 point deficit. So we just got to get that off our back, man, and just figure it out.
One thing I noticed, yeah,
like
you're right,
said,
they did.
Our two best players probably didn't play today, or two of our best players, two starters didn't play today.
Well, I think it showed today our best player is Dalton Connect. He was the player I highlighted on that podcast, and he showed out today. I mean, he was awesome.
I hope so. He's got a pretty shot too, and he showed today. He'll take it in there and put it in your mouth. I mean, he yammed on old boy.
So look at his line today. He 34 minutes, 8 of 16 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3-point range, 9 of 11 from the foul line, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 28 points. Jordan Gainey was the one that really surprised me. 20 points. He's a transfer from USC Upstate there in Spartanburg. His dad, Justin Gainey's an assistant coach. I'd heard some rumblings that he had been having a good fall in some of the stuff I'd been reading, but I wasn't expecting a 20-point outing against the number 4 team in the country out of him. But Meshack had a good game, 11 points. Jonas Adu, 9 points. I mean,
I thought Adu had a great game.
Yeah.
Offensively and defensively. He had one block in that game that he basically stopped just a power dunk, and it got sent up the court for 2 points. So he's a stud today too.
How did Awaka play?
He was good. I mean, he played 17 minutes. It says here he had 8 points, 4 rebounds. He was 2 for 4 from the field. They played a lot of guys. I said they played 10. I mean, I don't know what the rotation is going to look like when Vescovy and Zakai Ziegler come back. I mean, just think, Tennessee went on the road today. This was pretty much a legit game besides the fouls, and they beat the number 4 team in the country without 2 of the best players in at least the SEC in the backcourt. It just shows you how deep. Tom Izzo said it all week leading up to the game. This team is super deep. They're Final Four good. I mean, they played 10 guys. They're going to have 12, and there were some like DJ Jefferson never saw the floor today. I don't know what was, if he's just out of the mix or what's going on, or if he's hurt. I don't know, but I mean, they played. DeLeon played. Cade Phillips, Australia, Cameron Carr got 1 minute. So. But yeah, I mean, this team is super deep, and if they have an injury or somebody misses, it like last year, it kind of hurt them a little bit. And there was times today where especially at the end, not having Ziegler or Vescovy out there for ball handling, you could tell. That's why the game really shouldn't have been a 1-point game. Tennessee was up 5 with like 5 seconds left and couldn't get the ball in bounds.
They were up 8 with like 27 seconds left.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a struggle to get the ball inbounds. They turned it over. Michigan State hit a 3 to tie it. And then Michigan State, honestly, they fouled a guy running up the sideline.
And I'm going to say we've been screwed by the officiating in football the last couple of weeks. and I usually don't say that, but we have. We got bailed out a little bit with that one today. There wasn't much contact there on that one, but I'll take it.
No. Yeah, I will too. And he missed the front front end, and then he hit the second one to win it with 1.3 seconds left.
Yeah, big. I mean, it was a huge win for Tennessee. Just so not even a win really, just win or lose. They played with the number 4 team in the country preseason rankings. Michigan State's going to be in contention for the Big Ten and, probably be a pretty high seed in the NCAA tournament here in a few months. So something to keep your eye on. But Tennessee, let's see, they tip off here in a week? I'm trying to pull the schedule up. They play this Tuesday, Halloween night against Lenoir-Rhyne in Thompson-Boling, Food City Center. Exhibition game. And then opening night is the following Monday, November 6th against Tennessee Tech. And then later that week on the 10th, they travel to Madison, Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. So that's the first couple games on the docket. But, I'm really excited about this basketball team. I think they can make some noise this year. And it's like I said on that podcast, they're going to be in contention for the SEC. They're going to be probably a pretty high seed, but they could lose several games this year just because of their schedule. I mean, they play a gauntlet of a schedule. We talked about it on that podcast. I mean, I don't know what their strength of schedule is going to end up being, but if it's not near the top, I don't know. I want to see who else has a tougher schedule than that. It's crazy. Some of the team, Wisconsin, on the road, Syracuse, and then probably Purdue or Gonzaga or Kansas. Then you go to North Carolina. You host Illinois at home, NC State and San Antonio. And then you get into SEC play, which is, Alabama's, I don't know what they're going to be like this year. I saw they lost to Wake Forest yesterday. But you've got Kentucky a couple times. A&M's going to be good this year. Arkansas is good. Missouri could be tough. A&M's good. Auburn. I mean, this schedule this year is going to be tough for the Vols, but we'll see what they're made of. They've got all the ingredients to have a really good season this year. But I did say this, Big Montana, on that podcast I was on. They asked me, they did a buy or BS. What is the floor and the ceiling for Tennessee? And I said the floor for this team was probably top 4 SEC at the end of the SEC season. And I think the floor is probably second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And the ceiling is going to wherever the Final Four is this year. I mean, that's the ceiling for this team. I'm not saying the ceiling is winning a national title, but getting to that Final Four is the ceiling, because I think this team's got everything they need. They play good defense. They rebound. They've got scoring now. But it's just getting over that hump. Are they going to lose to Florida Atlantic in the second round or the Sweet 16?
Yeah. I honestly think with the talent we have and, Rick Barnes being the coach he is, I think it's very easy to say, barring a major injury, that Sweet 16 should always be our floor right now. And we need to get over that hump to get to the Elite Eight, if not the Final Four, because we're capable of beating any team in the country any night. I mean, we have that kind of team. We had that kind of team last year, and the year before we did too. I think we've had that team for the past 4 or 5 years, to be honest with you. So we just got to do
it. Going to the thing about a really tough schedule starting the year, I would rather do that than play Carson Newman and Tennessee School Blind and schools like that. Because if you have 9 losses, let's say, I don't know, just randomly, let's say you have 9 losses with a top 5 strength of schedule in the country, that's going to be weighted more than if you have 4 losses with like the 60th ranked strength schedule. And like it's gonna help better prepare you for conference play, which in turn is gonna better prepare you for tournament play. So I'm all for it. Give me an absolute gauntlet. And if we play 6 teams that are ranked inside the top 10 and we go 3-3, I'm fine with it. Totally cool with it. So.
Tennessee just can't lose their typical 1 to 3 games against SEC opponents that we should annihilate. We don't need to lose to Vanderbilt or South Carolina. Yeah, you're going to slip up and lose one to Kentucky. Missouri might get you, Arkansas might get you, whatever. But you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And, you got to win a couple of those big out-of-conference games when you play in the Maui or whatever. So that's, you're not going to go undefeated. You're not going to win every game. Yes, you're going to have setbacks and whatnot. Shooters go cold. But you just can't lose those just like the Colorado game last year. That can't happen. That's just stupid.
No, you're right. I mean, a game equal to that this year is probably NC State. They're going to be a fringe tournament team. Yeah, they can't go out to San Antonio and lose that game. They need to go up to Wisconsin and win that game, even though Wisconsin's not an easy place to play, and they're a good program. But yeah, they need to go win those games, and then see what happens against Kansas and Purdue and Gonzaga and Illinois and some of those others. But yeah, like I said, this team can go as far as they want to go. It's just putting it together and seeing what happens. But I'm really excited about them. This is probably the best chance on paper they've had in several years, probably since Grant and Admiral and Bowden and all those guys. I think last year's team was good, but looking back on them, they had some issues that obviously came to light, scoring issues and, just having guys out there on the floor to open up the court. And even the last couple of years before that, they had flaws that kept them from doing that. But I think this team's so deep that they can maybe overcome a lot of that stuff. If somebody's off one night, somebody else is probably going to be on. So
you just got to watch them scoring droughts, man. I'm telling you, that just derails momentum in a game. You can't go 3 or 4 minutes without getting the bucket. It's just not good.
Yeah, I haven't seen, and I got to go back and watch. I was trying to look it up while y'all were talking, but I don't know. Did they not score any at all, or did they get to the foul line? I don't know what happened in that. I know they went on a drought there for a field goal drought, but I didn't know how bad the scoring was.
I don't know if they. I mean, I know that Michigan State got back in the game. I mean, I was halfway watching it, halfway whatever. And I just heard the announcer saying it's been 4 minutes and 32 seconds since Tennessee had scored. And I think it happened again. So, 12 minutes in a basketball game of not scoring, or 8 minutes, whatever you want to call it, is a long time.
No, it is. Yeah. You can get away with a 2 or 3 minute drought. You start getting above 4 and 5 minutes, you're asking for trouble.
Especially if the other team's scoring.
Yeah.
If nobody's scoring, it's one thing, but if they're, getting back into a ball game or, getting ahead of you, it's ball game.
Well, and that's what happens too. I mean, you play a team like Michigan State, they're going to make you go into a scoring drought because Tom Izzo's teams, they play really good defense most of the time. So, I mean, great experience for both teams, to be honest. I mean, how many times do you see teams? They've been doing these closed scrimmages for the past couple of years, but this is the first time I've seen the open scrimmages televised. I mean, there was a lot of college basketball on this afternoon. I think you'll see more of that going forward. Maybe we get somebody big in here next year. I don't know. Be nice. Get a big powerhouse from the West Coast or somewhere around in the North. Come down and play us in Thompson Bowling. Food City Center.
That reminds me that home and home with Arizona was really fun.
It was.
Yeah. I'd like to do that with like a UCLA or somebody like that. But,
yeah, no, that was really that Arizona series. I wish they'd play them more often, to be honest. I'm glad they're playing Wisconsin. Wisconsin's one that I've always kind of wanted to play. I know when I was in college, we played Ohio State home and home. That was pretty cool. That was after Odin, but yeah, I mean, playing these non-conference teams, step out of conference, play some big guys. What's it hurt you if you lose? Now, if you win, it really helps you. But I was talking on that podcast. Say Tennessee goes and wins all these games against these big time opponents. Think of their resume come March when they put it up on the screen and they talk about Tennessee's quality wins, and they have, well, they won't put Michigan State because it doesn't count, but Wisconsin, Illinois, maybe Kansas, Purdue, or Gonzaga, NC State, and then you got Kentucky. I mean, you got all these, North Carolina. I don't know what North Carolina is supposed to be like this year, but they can have a sheet full of quality wins.
Then they still give us a 4 seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got 5 losses, 4 seed.
Yeah. You lost 5 games to Kansas, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Purdue, 4 seed.
Well, yeah, and it's going to be because we lose in the SEC championship final in like a third overtime throw, and they're like, "Oh, there's no way you should lose that game."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I talked off air with those guys over there at that podcast, and I was like, "Look, is there a team besides maybe Kentucky in this conference that can compete with Tennessee?" And they said, "Oh yeah, there's teams that can compete with Tennessee, but if Tennessee does not win the SEC, it will kind of be an upset because we're just that much more talented than everybody." They look a lot at analytics, and you know, I do look at analytics too, but sometimes you got to look at eyeball tests. But they're like that's all these guys talk about. They are basketball.
Is that the Nathan Rutherford guy?
Mm-mm. No, this is David and God, it's a girl. I can't remember her name, but they're Arkansas fans. They're in Arkansas, I think, or in that area. But they're big Arkansas fans. But they pretty much talk basketball in the South. And now she started a show about women's basketball, and then he started another show about mid-major basketball. So they have like 3 different podcasts, but they're pretty good. So if you're looking for a basketball podcast besides ours, which we're a little bit of everything, check them out because they've had a preview of every SEC team, individual players. They've had some coaches on their show, so they do a really good job. So I would check them out. Hater and loser of the week. Who do y'all got? Harbin, you and I split this week, 50-50 on the poll.
Wait. Bowling, do you have one? We'll let you go first and Jane. Then
my hater and loser of the week are Tennessee Titans fans. All I've heard, even from myself, the past 6 months is how stupid it was to draft Will Levis, and he absolutely looked like the MVP of the league today. He had a great game. I know he played Atlanta, but hopefully he works out. Kentucky fans may have been right. Maybe he should have been in the first round. Who knows? That's just all I got. All I could think of right now. But he was spectacular today. Thought he had a great game. Liked him throwing the ball to Hopkins too. Got my fantasy points up.
Yeah, he definitely went off today. That's for sure.
Did not see that happening whatsoever.
No.
But I mean, hopefully he can put 2 games together too. We'll see. But he looked like he belonged out there. That was for sure. I also liked how they kind of told Henry that they weren't going to trade him, and he's still running the ball good. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Kind of actually, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of your hater and loser. My hater and loser of the week is going to be Mike Vrabel. That's what I was going with.
My gosh.
No, I mean, that's what I was going to go with, and I didn't really have a backup, so I'm still going with it. Reason being, there was a video that came out, I want to say on like Thursday or Friday. And he was doing a press conference, and this guy just asked him a routine question, and Vrabel was kind of just being a prick for no reason. He's like, man, put your hands down. He's like, why you got your hands up? Like, you look like a complete idiot, just like ribbing on the guy, and then just classic, like give him no answer, whatever. Well, then Will Levis comes out, and I got to give Will Levis his flowers. It's definitely a performance from the state of Kentucky this weekend. He 4 touchdowns in his debut. And I didn't watch the game, but from the highlights, man, he looked good. So I'll give him his credit on that. But after the game, Vrabel gave him no credit, like at all. He pretty much was like, yeah, it was a pretty decent debut, like blah blah blah. And I understand, like you want to keep him grounded, you want him to stay hungry and progress. But just from what I've heard from Titans fans and from what I've seen, if Ryan Tannehill would have came out today, if he wasn't hurt and he'd have had 4 touchdowns, Vrabel's wrist would have been sore in the locker room afterwards. So
his wrist?
Yeah, his wrist. I'm not elaborating on that.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
And then there was a video of the post-game speech that Vrabel gave, and he gave a ton of credit to the receivers and the run game. Did not mention his quarterback in his very first start going for 250 plus and 4. So yeah, just kind of chicken shit in my opinion. I understand that Vrabel probably didn't want the front office to draft him, but he's on the roster now, and he helped you win a football game and semi-stay afloat for the rest of the year. So
they saved his job too.
Right? Yeah. Just like a little, hey, thanks for cooling off my seat a little bit would have been nice, but no, he didn't. So for that reason, he's my hater and loser.
I can promise you he didn't want to draft him. You remember his reaction when they did draft him in the war room there in Nashville. He got up and started walking around, and you could just tell by his face. He's like, what have they done? But he did. I didn't get to see much of the game today, but the little I did, he played pretty well. And the Titans fans booed every time they put Malik Willis into the game for that, basically just for a Wildcat top package.
I think the reason they were booing, I don't think they were booing Willis. I think they were booing the play call.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think if he comes out and plays, I don't know, I think they play Pittsburgh this Thursday. He comes out and plays like that again, the Titans are going to have a decision to make when Ryan Tannehill comes back. Do they ride it out with Tannehill, or do they say, hey, this kid might have something here, let's play with him and we'll just trade Tannehill? Because him and Derrick Henry are two of those. If they don't win some games here pretty soon, those two boys are going to be gone, because they are not going to let those guys stick around and lose them for nothing, especially Travis or Derrick Henry. So I think you'll see that coming up maybe. But it depends on what they do. I mean, they win this week, they're back against the Steelers, they're back to 500. So my hater and loser of the week, probably nobody knows this person. I don't even know who this person is. But I'm going to call her Karen, and she's a Seymour fan, comes over to the window during the final home game of the Hornets season this past Friday. And, we have LED lights at the stadium in every school in Knox County now. And when Carter scores, we hit the button, lights flash. When they come out, if it's dark enough when they come out of the tunnel, we flash the lights. During the national anthem, it's got red, white, and blue lights. Turns the field kind of reddish blue. Really cool, patriotic. So halftime, or for this last home game, it was really dark most of the night, so we went all out with it. During halftime, band director came up and actually did a light show with the band. It was pretty cool. There was a lot of points scored. Carter's won 56-21. A ton of points scored in the second half, like back to back to back touchdown scores for the Hornets. So the lights were flashing a lot. We look up, and there's a lady standing at the press box windows. Our press box, if you've ever been to Carter, sits really low, right on the stands. She comes over and is like beating on the window. We open the window up, and she says, "Can you all please stop flashing those lights? We've got 2 players on the sideline in concussion protocol, and there's 2 people in the stands who are prone to epileptic seizures. Please stop that." And I said, "Ma'am, you can go talk to the administration about it." Little did I know, she'd already done this. She'd also already talked to the police. Apparently didn't like their answer. So she just took it upon herself to walk all the way across the stadium, beat on the window, and demand that we stop flashing lights. My message to her, I actually went looking for her after the game. I couldn't find her. My message to her is, you come over to the press box one more time, you may regret it. I'm not talking about physical harm, but you may not be in the stadium anymore. What's wrong with people? Why are you coming over there? You're at a football game. If you are prone to seizures or you're in concussion protocol and you know that, hey, there's a guy running, he's about to score, close your eyes. I mean, seriously, close your eyes. Don't be a Karen. Sit in the stands. If you're getting your brains beat in like they were, then leave. Stop ruining the fun for everybody else. Does she go to a UT? I doubt she goes to UT football games. Does this lady go to a UT football game and go up to the press box and beat on the windows every time they flash the LED lights? I doubt it. But she might try. What a loser. What a loser. She's not even a hater. She's just a flat out loser. And she had this huge yellow gold, I don't know what it was on. You could see her from a mile away. Just a total and complete loser. God, I was fired up. I was like, I'm gonna go over there and find her. I walked out on the field to give the radio back to the staff, and I was looking up in the stands for her. I was gonna go find her and be like, "Hey, you come up there again and see what happens."
And yeah, Nathan's gonna knock the hell out of her.
I never said physically. I'm just saying, I'll have your rear end ejected. I look for people like that. I love it. Like, don't be an idiot. Don't be a loser. So she's my hater and loser of the week. All right, we got to wrap this up. This show's taking forever tonight. Y'all got any closing comments?
No, sir.
Not
Go
really.
Vols.
Gonna be an early one on Saturday. Still don't know if I'm gonna be down there or not. I might not. Get through the game. Do what you need to do. Let's get some guys that don't normally get some playing time. Get them some playing time. Don't get hurt. That's kind of the biggest thing for me in this game. Don't go out there and get hurt. Just kind of do what you need to do, and let's get some positive thoughts going into Missouri when we're 7-2.
Do the Vols cover?
Yes.
They win by 5 touchdowns. Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking 44 to 45-10. There you go. Just rounding numbers. 45-10.
That's what I was going to say, like 41-7 or something like that, which wouldn't be covering, but but I could see that score happening. So let's say 42-7. That's a cover.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired again. Got a busy week coming up. If you're down at the stadium this weekend and want to hang out for a few minutes prior to the game, come over and have some breakfast with us. I mean, we won't have anything for you to eat, but you come and hang out with us. But we'll gear it up and we'll go big for the Georgia game here in a few weeks. Got some Georgia fans coming in. They're always a good time, and some other special guests may be heading our way for that game. And that'll be we got 3 home games left, so we got to soak them in. And then it's on to basketball full time. But appreciate everybody listening. Remember, you can find us wherever you can get your podcast, mainly Apple and Spotify. I think on Google too. YouTube channel, check us out there. Like, subscribe, comment, share, post, whatever it is. For Harb and Big Montana, this is Negative Nice. We'll see you guys next week.